It's a matter of great pleasure to talk to you about your latest book, and I hope in the new year we have more such occasions. That is the best one can wish for a writer.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ranjeet. Thank you for doing this conversation with me. You've always been so supportive of my creative work. Thank you.
Mutual. The support is very mutual. So, you must all remember that historically, when the camera was first invented, people used to feel very afraid of being photographed. Many of them believed that the camera would capture their soul.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks, oh, how ignorant, what a myth it is. It is not. Because you literally see a photographer like Raghu Rai capture the soul of India through the photographs that you saw here. His photographs about the monuments of Indian cities, his photographs about the slums, about the human tragedies like the Bhopal gas and the Bangladesh. He literally captures the soul, the essence of the subject of his photography. And there are other ways to capture the souls too. And I guess Rachna has ended up capturing his soul and the soul of his creativity through her pen. So let's hope that we can learn about the process about her writing this book and what it brings for us. So Rachna, there have been so many contemporary famous writers like Pushpmala, Ram Rahman, a very interesting name, and then Sunil Gupta. And they came after Raghu Rai because he was born just before independence, and he was probably the most eminent photojournalist of an independent India. And we must remember that when he worked, there were not very many best of cameras or technology to edit. And after him came these photographers who also made a name for themselves, also because they had better resources. And yet you chose to write on Raghu Rai. Why? What was it that drew you to write his memoir and not any other?
Well, Ranjeet, I've been following Raghu Rai ji's work for more than 3 decades now. I was first introduced to his work back in 1984. I was, I think, a schoolgirl of 16 or 17 then, and the Bhopal tragedy had just happened. And the India Today magazine carried a huge 10-page spread on that industrial disaster. And there were these gut-wrenching, heart-rending photographs in that coverage. And one photograph that really riveted me was the photograph that was on the cover of India Today. It was a black and white photograph of a young child lying in the rubble, staring sightlessly into space with a gentle hand tenderly caressing the forehead and bidding it farewell. So that photograph, I remember, it had brought tears of pain and sorrow to my eyes, And since then, because that photograph was by Raghu Rai, since then, Raghu Rai became a part of my personal gallery of celebrities. And I would go back to his photographs to learn more about life, life in all its entirety, in its beauty, in its ugliness. And then fast forward to 2022. Serendipitously, I would say, I connected again with Raghu Rai ji for an interview for my magazine, The Wise Owl. And in fact, Poonam, my friend, who was also a journalist, she facilitated that connect. And the first question that I asked Raghu Rai ji then, and it was a question that had been weighing on my mind for a very long time, I asked him that when you take a photograph like that of the Bhopal tragedy, are you objective and detached, or does it give you sleepless nights, you know? And what he told me set me thinking. He said that when you have to share a photograph or a tragedy, a photograph of a tragedy in fact, with the world, in all its intensity and truthfulness, you cannot let emotions color you. Because he believes that the core of a creative artist, you know, is a pure heart which is unsullied and not made soggy by emotion. So he would often, you know, quote Kabir at me also, and I included that as a part of the book. He would often say, Das Kabir, Jatan se odi, jyon ki tyon dhar dini chadariya. And he would always tell me that when you are emotionally overwhelmed, chunariya meli ho jati hai. So these were the kind of, you know, nuggets of wisdom that was strewn in that interview that I took. And after that, for almost 1 year, I would keep going back to that interview for, you know, nuggets of wisdom about spirituality, about life lessons. And then when I was going through that interview for the nth time, you know, I decided I wanted to share the journey of this great man and his philosophy with the world. So I sent a short note to Raghu Rai. I told him that, sir, I am totally impressed, of course, by your dedication and devotion to your craft, but more than that, I'm fascinated by your philosophy of life, your attitude to life. And would you be interested in doing a biography with me? So for almost 2 months, he did not respond. I thought he probably didn't want to collaborate with a, you know, lesser known writer like me. But one day, just out of the blue, he sent me a very short text saying, hi Rachna, sorry for the delay, let's meet up and talk about the book. And that's how my journey into the life of Raghu Rai started. And it was an amazing, incredible journey. And I sort of came out of that journey, I feel, a more evolved, more mature person, probably a better human being.
Oh, that's a lot to say about somebody. So I just wonder that your memoir is about a photographer.
Right.
It's not about a religious leader. It is not about a guru. So how does the title of your book, Waiting for the Divine, connect with him?
Well, there's a long story to that also. We had kind of stitched up the manuscript, sent it off to the publisher, and the publisher was, you know, pushing us to lock the title. He came up with very cliched kind of titles, Raghu Rai, a memoir, Raghu Rai, an authorized biography. I was toying with a few other titles, you know, like Living Every Moment with Raghu Rai, or From Behind the Lens of a Photographer. Again, I felt that these were very hackneyed kind of titles. I wasn't happy with them because I felt that they did not reflect the essence of Raghu Rai, the man. So I thought, let me ask Raghu Rai ji only. I said, sir, you tell me, what would you like to call your book? So he sort of paused for a couple of seconds, and then he said that, let's call it Raghu Rai Waiting for the Divine. And as soon as he said that, I realized that this was the perfect title for this book. Because this was the title which reflected Raghu Rai the man. Because for him, his entire quest, his entire pursuit was finding the divine presence in life and in nature. And here I would like to share something that he said and which I have retained in the foreword of the book. And I have, in fact, when he spoke to me about it, he used Hindustani. And I have retained it as such in the foreword because I felt that if I translated it into English, the original essence of what he said would be lost. And I would just like to share that, and that would explain how this title of the book, how it is so evocative and how it fits completely with the life and philosophy of Raghu Rai. So what he said was, जब दर्शन की चाह हो और दर्शन होते हैं नेचर के, लाइफ के, तब कण कण में भगवान नजर आते हैं। और जब डिवाइन एनर्जी आपकी अंतरात्मा से कनेक्ट होती है तो दर्शन लाजमी है। And then he went on to, explain this concept. He told me the difference between dekhna and darshan karna. Just seeing and, seeing the divine presence. So here again, let me just go back to what he said here, because his words would best explain, what he means. So he said, photography is dekhna, but it is not just seeing. It is darshan karna. It is almost as though the divine is telling me, kareeb se dekho, sabko samjho. And I feel strongly that jab aap paas se dekhte ho, to aapko darshan honge. So when he is talking about the divine essence, he is not talking about God as such, Ram or Rahim or Guru Nanak. He is talking about a divine energy. And I'm reminded of this little snippet of conversation that he shared with me. This was a conversation he had with Amrita Pritam. And he said that Amrita Pritam approached him to do an interview for a magazine, Preetlani. And she asked him, how many photographs do you take, Raghu Rai ji, and how many are good photographs? So Raghu Rai ji said, I responded with, Amrita ji, आप कितने इंसानों को मिलती हैं और कितनों के दर्शन पाती हैं. So that was the distinction for him. He felt that if you are simply seeing and photographing, then you are simply a recorder. You are just reproducing things, replicating things. But it is when you see that divine energy